Yo. So I've been working on a documentary about a particular figure in the Sonic the Hedgehog community. One of the most infamous and interesting to discuss, in fact. A man who once tried to make a full-fledged Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and somehow got far closer to doing it than you might imagine. The tale more than worth telling in full. Later. But while I've been working on that, I've been in the mood to talk about a strange elephant, or perhaps I should say chipmunk, in the room. A character that is very much connected to this other individual, but in truth seems ever presently connected with the id of the Sonic the Hedgehog fanbase. A character as loved as she is hated by others. A character that, despite never being in a mainline game, has entire communities built around her fictional existence. Yes, we are talking about none other than Sally Acorn herself. Today I'd like to take you down a bit of a rabbit hole to showcase how dedicated some fans are to this particular character. And I'll warn you now, he's gonna get pretty freaky. But before we get into Sonic related creepypastas and other such fun degenerate activities, this video is sponsored by Frag Pro Shooter, one of the best shooter games of 2020. Designed for mobile devices with more than 70 million players and 1 million active players every day, this completely free-to-play and skill-based mobile shooter isn't playing around. You guys and gals can obtain exclusive rewards thanks to the link in the description, by the way. The rules are easy. Destroy the enemy's bunkers and towers as quickly as possible before they do the same to yours. There are more than 90 playable characters to collect, all with their own specific gameplay quirks and powers. You can create your own deck of these characters and build your own strategy to destroy your opponent's buildings and counter whatever strategy that they may be playing themselves. There's always new content being added to Frag Pro Shooter. Each new version releases a new fragger, the last one being Lily. Straight from cyber hell, Lily flies around the world in search of Inferno, her infernal son. Since its departure, cyber hell has been turned upside down. With Lily, you can gather dark energy to boost your HP and release it in an explosion of flames on all of your enemies. There's also 3 new game modes in Frag, including my personal favorite, Payload. Be the first one to safely escort your cart to victory. The goal is to reach the center of the map with your cart. You can slow down the enemy's cart by destroying their target, or stay in defense and make yours go faster. It's a ton of fun and really encourages good teamwork. And speaking of teamwork, you can join my club, the Night Owls, and play with me and your fellow Night Owl brethren. Additionally, I can give you a great jump start in the game. Free rewards just for you, only thanks to the link in the description, even for those who have already installed Frag. By clicking that link in the description, you can get 1 golden chest, 500 coins, and 50 diamonds worth $6. Again, just click the link down below in the description and take advantage of this special offer and join me sometime on the battlefield. Thank you, Frag Pro Shooter, one of the best shooter games of 2020, for sponsoring this video. So, Sally Acorn. She's a character that is only found within the classic 90s Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic.exe cartoon, and equally loved and hated Sonic Archie comics, which had been going strong from November 22nd, 1992, all the way to December 28th of 2016, before being suddenly canned. Now, I won't go into the specifics of that story here. If you want a good overlook of what happened, then I'd recommend Cybershell's nominal video on the topic. But needless to say, Sally Acorn is a spin-off character. She also has a random cameo in the Sonic Spin Ball game, but outside of that, she's never been in any of the games. That, however, has never stopped her from being one of the most loved Sonic characters of all time. Perhaps too loved, you might say. Now don't get me wrong, sonic.exe is my jam, and Acorn has always had a pretty good dynamic wherever she's at, that being Sonic's love interest or being the sort of brains of the operation to Sonic's, well, speed and what have you. In fact, in many ways, Acorn was practically a second main character to Sonic the Hedgehog in Sonic.exe. You might think, if you've never seen the show, that the second main character might be someone like Tails, but no, it's actually to this completely new character, Acorn. But that being said, the people who like Acorn, at least a select amount of them, really like Acorn. And today I'd like to showcase to you a few select examples of this love going into some strange, interesting, and disturbing areas at times. With my first example of the day being Sally.exe. So I'm sure you're all very much familiar with the infamous creepypasta story, Sonic.exe. And if you aren't, go watch my video on it and maybe give it a read for yourself, it's pretty funny. Well, during the EXE craze, there was just about a .exe inspired creepypasta of every game or thing that you could possibly think of. Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64, Spyro the Dragon, the sky was truly the limit with this stuff. And at the same time, there was plenty of dedicated lads and lasses creating fan games based on these creepypastas, including Sally.exe. The actual story of Sally.exe follows basically the same plot as the badly written original Sonic.exe, except instead of Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik getting violently murdered by an evil demonic Sonic in some haunted Sonic ROM or something like that, while our melodramatic author cries all about it, we instead have Cream the Rabbit, Amy Rose, and of course Sally Acorn being violently murdered by a demonic Sonic, while an equally melodramatic but slightly more aware narrator also cries about it. The story begins with the following paragraph. Quote, "I'm a big fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, like a lot of people. I narrowed down to the classic Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon shows though, because I think the rest Sega had spawned was rat crap, each to their own," unquote. Can you really say that you're a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog series if you only like one cartoon and nothing else? Not even the games? The narrator goes on to say, quote, "I was browsing eBay the other day. I wondered if there would be any items about my favorite character in the series, Sally Acorn. Indeed, what I found was a plushie that was manufactured in Sega World at Sydney, which closed down due to lack of visitors in 2006. Those Sally plushies are very rare, but I didn't have the money to buy her, and my parents would despise me for it. To be fair, telling anyone, parents included, that you paid $300 plus for this plush, well, it doesn't exude smart decision making, does it? I examined the plushie for a while as the article came with pictures. This Sally even had her jacket. On it was written with a permanent marker, God. I don't really know what it meant. Probably the initials of the child owning her before they were sold, unquote. I always love in these .exe or lost episode creepypastas how there is a bunch of red flags or weird things connected to the thing that they're buying being cursed, or at the very least is probably a virus or something, that the narrator doesn't just excuse but actually comes up with some sort of logical reason for, showcasing that they are in fact capable of logical reasoning to a degree. And then later, when the game starts showing blood and guts, they all throw all logic out the window and assume that it must be a cursed game made by the devil himself and not some sort of mod or fan game or something like that. My favorite part about this story in particular is the way the author both tries to imitate the already bad and overdramatic writing style of Sonic.exe, but also seems like he's trying to put his own voice and reason in there. As an example, just listen to this excerpt. Quote, "And God, did I want to cry and weep when I saw Sally Acorn pup out of that goddamned logo, putting on her innocent smile as she waved towards me, like she didn't know what torture would happen to her. The game was so terrifying and yet so fascinating, but I wanted to stop real bad, but my hand wouldn't budge. I even started shaking. I wanted to reach for the power button, turn the damn thing off, but my hand just wouldn't move. And before I knew it, I already hit start, and the screen faded. Unquote. It literally sounds like he's arguing with himself, trying to stick to the melodramatic tone of the original EXE, while also justifying the melodramatic tone. It's fucking fabulous. However, the best part of this story isn't even the fact that it's a worse version of sonic.exe. It's the fact that here we can get our first example of Sally Acorn being associated with fetish degeneracy. Quote, Sonic.exe was playing from where the CD cut off. It had a reddish shade and Sonic had these black, bleeding demonic eyes. Sally looked even worse, at least to me. Her eyes were missing. It was like they were taken out, and Sally's skull was sewed closed again. Blood was running from her wound. It didn't look Photoshop. It was actually animated. Sonic pulled Sally over like in the show, only tentacle-like things bursted out of their mouths and locked, making disgusting slurping noises. I could even see them bulge in Sally's throat. Worst thing was that they even looked like they were enjoying it. And for a moment, I think I was too. What the fuck? That last line comes literally out of nowhere, by the way. In an otherwise by-the-books.exe creepypasta story, we just randomly have neural that starts making the author really horny. The game, based on this pasta, sort of follows the story of the pasta and was made by the OG man himself who made the first Sonic.exe game, Mist Crimson. Which, by the way, did you know that the OG game was apparently cooked up in 3 days according to the developer? To think, a simple 3-day Sonic fan game could have such an enormous presence on the internet at the time. Sally.exe, like Sonic.exe, was heavily played by Let's Players and the like back in the day, looking for anything similar to Sonic.exe, and might have been even some younger people's first introduction to the character, which is pretty crazy to think about. I mean, some of the most popular and watched content on YouTube related to Sally Acorn are Sally.exe related content. Hell, there are still new fan games and animations based on this story being made to this day. It's not even an official sequel or anything, but it kind of feels like it is sometimes with how related it is with the original at this point. You do have to respect the dedication from all these animators and game developers at the end of the day, I guess, though. Plus, it would seem that the strange part of the story kind of magically disappeared when the game didn't include it. That line almost makes me wonder if the original story was just a troll pasta, something meant to be taken in for the comedic genius that it is. But that may be giving credit where it's not really due, like pretending Jeff the Killer was bad on purpose or My Immortal. It's possible, but way less likely than most think. But then I actually did a little digging and found something rather interesting about this creepypasta. It's actually more than a ripoff of Sonic.exe. It's also actually a ripoff of a completely separate Sonic creepypasta. One that, honestly, in stark contrast to Sonic.exe, is a little bit creepy. See, in the story, the violent ways these characters come to die, with Cream being speed dashed into a wall of spikes, say Acorn being crushed by black walls closing in on her, and Amy jumping into a silver ring, I guess. Well, these kind of creative ways for them to die, the wall of spikes in particular being pretty interesting, was actually all taken from this video from 2011, re-uploaded in 2013, simply titled Sonic Creepypasta. It just has an atmosphere to it that I actually kind of appreciate. But most importantly was the thing all those cool death scenes came from. Sally.exe was uploaded around mid-2015, so yeah, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. Not that this is some sort of grand revelation, it's called Sally.exe. It's clear from the get-go this wasn't going to be the most original tale around. But even still, at least sonic.exe, as bad as it is, was its own thing. Sally.exe is just a strange product you're left with when a creepypasta inspired off of a bad creepypasta steals cool ideas from a good creepypasta and is written by a thirsty Sally Acorn fan. Now, if you were to ask me why Sally Acorn is one of those characters that seems to be commonly connected with fetish art and the weirdest, creepiest parts of the Sonic fandom, I really couldn't tell ya. I suppose the simple answer is a lot of people out there really want to funny kiss her.
How come you didn't do the funny kiss?
Now, because I know you're all morbidly curious, I'm sure many of you are wondering what other examples I have. Well, how about this thing? The life-sized Sally Acorn doll. This image, along with the accompanying ones here, has made their rounds through the web, including a Justin Wing video because he beat me to the punch. But all the same, his cursed nature has made most everyone, Sonic fans or not, take a pause. A DeviantArt user by the name of Grenadine is responsible for making this thing. It's clear as day this man has quite the love and appreciation for Sally Acorn. But I'd be amiss in saying that this was the creepiest part of this doll. No, as they say, one must look within to find one's true character. And when one looks inside the life-size Sally Acorn doll, they find... Yeah, because it wouldn't be enough for this dude to have made a life-size Sally Acorn doll. It has life-sized human skeleton limbs. I remember that the accompanying story behind these pictures was that this man killed his ex-girlfriend and then boiled the flesh from her bones to then Frankenstein back together this abomination of mankind. But before you freak out about that too much, these bones are actually made out of wood, and seemingly are made by the dude himself, with no murder story at all involved with it. Not that that makes it suddenly not creepy, it just goes from holy shit serial killer level creepy to, well, still kind of that a little bit, but definitely not for sure murder. Let's just call it extra dedicated fetish art. Now, Grenadine documented his progress in the making of this thing, showcasing in particular the jaws and teeth of this doll. Now, you might be wondering what this thing was made for, and if you are, I am so sorry to have been the one to take your innocence away. As I dive deeper into this man's photos of the doll, you can start to see a bit of a pattern here, with the shot framing and the way the doll is posed. Oh, and look at that, the doll has breasts that he made himself as well. I wonder what the doll might be used for. No, but seriously, beyond this man's Sallyexe doll, he seems to just like making shit. Hell, this Sally doll has been a work in progress for over 20 years, and the man has apparently learned a ton of skills in the process of making this perfect Sally Acorn doll. It's fair to say that this man's thirst for Sally brought out his creativity in many ways he might not have foreseen. He even made himself this custom briefcase laptop with a wholesome picture of his in real life girlfriend for the wallpaper. Not much else to say though, really. It's just super weird, yet oddly impressive. Inspiring creativity mixed with overwhelming degeneracy. But hey, that's just the internet in general for ya. While we're here though, since I know I won't get the chance to talk about this again, there's this YouTube channel and DA page that goes by J Foxfire that's been around for a long ass time. They are also, of course, a fan of Sonic and Sally Acorn, as you might imagine, and want to express their love for the character in a different way. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Okay, so what? It's just a person in a Sally Acorn fursuit. I guess the way it walks from the shadows and that ominous lighting is kind of creepy, but who cares? That's not at all that strange. Well,
Yay! Song time! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sonic. Happy birthday to you. Mwah!
yeah, so sort of like a channel I covered before, Non-Person Human, this individual is playing the character of Sally Acorn, role-playing, feeding you food, with the audience supposed to be playing Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't really know why this is a thing, mass people feeding the audience like children. There is probably something fetishy about it all, but what's funny to me is I think these videos are actually 100% not fetish material, and in fact are actually 100% accidentally a little creepy. I say this since J Foxfire also makes these comic dub type things she made about Sonic and Sally's life after they get married and live happily ever after with kids and whatnot, which she also does all the art for. Now, I'll be honest, it's just a little bit too mushy and everything is just so perfect for my sardonic temperament to take. But hey, they are quite popular on her channel, and honestly, genuinely wholesome, and a nice change of pace on the internet for Sally Acorn in this particular video anyway. And Jay's dedication also shines through this series since she's been working on and uploading it for years now, and continues to do so to this day. Looking at her art style made me actually remember that I had seen it before years and years ago, back when I used to frequent the FUS or Fans United for SatAM website. Now, I won't go into detail about that here, that's for a upcoming documentary. But needless to say, there is a strange bit of nostalgia that I feel associated with the style at this point. I suppose it is a reminder, not just for the Sally Acorn character, but Sonic in general, that despite there being a plethora of strange and questionable content made around these characters, there is also those that just like these characters and enjoy making content around them. And with that in mind, our last stop today, I want to showcase something a little different. It's weird, very weird actually, but also a bit endearing. Our last stop is a time capsule from the 90s, and what's more, it's a story that is connected with this vest-wearing chipmunk I can almost guarantee that you've never heard of until now. The Princess Sally Memorial Cyber Shrine is one of the most fascinating finds I've come across in recent time. At the top of the page reads, quote, "Dedicated to the blessed memory of Sallyexe, Princess Royal of the House of Acorn, 3219 to 3235. Unquote. Below that is a lengthy page full of thoughts, messages, and goodbyes to the Mobian princess, such as, quote, "Oh sister that I never had, you've gone and left me alone. I wait by myself in your room, while those who hardly knew you cry the night away. Because I cannot cry, or profess my emotion otherwise. They believe that I could not love, but I knew you better than some who called you their love. Though I was always by your side, I was rarely noticed. I was there in your darkest hours, loyally seeing that you had a friend to talk to. No one here knows me, not like you do. So I am truly alone, and I have failed in my purpose to always be by your side. If I had eyes, I would weep. If I had lungs, I would sob. If I had lips, I would kiss your cold lips. But I have none, so I say goodbye in the only way I can. I love you, Sally. Nicole." Unquote. For those who don't know or don't remember, this message is being written as though it were written by Nicole, otherwise known as Sally's sentient cell phone. But how about this one? Quote, "Her childish face shines in the darkness no more. The fight has gone out of her comrades and friends. Even her enemies seem to have lost something. She was their heart and soul. And now that she is gone, what will we do?" Unquote. Or how about this one? Quote, "They said it was to be their brave new world. But a world without Sally lacks the bravest soul of all." Unquote. And the page goes on for a while like that. Now you might be wondering, is this some sort of satire? Perhaps those mourning the death of Sally Acorn, a character that was once popular, now never used, or perhaps Sally Acorn, the character more commonly associated with internet degeneracy than her actual character? Well, actually, no. This page is old, very old as a matter of fact, and is a part of a larger set of pages from the 90s. In the page that precedes this one can be read, quote, "In early September 1996, Sonic comic writer and artist Ken Penders broke the news on the net. The endgame story arc, which would run for issues 47 through 50, would feature in 47 the death of Princess Sally. Many list members reacted with shock and anger to the news. At the offices of Archie Comics, Princess Sally was observed reading the fine print of her contract as Ken Penders prepared to make an artistic statement. On March 11th, 1997, Sonic issue 47 shipped from the publisher. The story, Taking the Fall, indeed showed Princess Sally falling to her death. What Sally fans had been buzzing around for months had tragically come to pass. Or had it? When Sonic issue 50 came out, with The Big Goodbye, the fourth and final installment of the endgame story arc, My cynicism was confirmed. Sally had managed to cheat death thanks to a stupid plot twist. In the interim, I had established the Princess Sally Memorial Cyber Shrine. It was a place for Sally's fans to express the grief and loss that they felt. I was both surprised and gratified at the response. The depth of their feelings for Sally came through in poems, lyrics, and thoughts expressed. While I am no longer including fan messages, I am leaving the Cyber Shrine in place as a monument to Sally's popularity, unquote. Indeed, even back in the early days, there was something about Sally that connected with people, something that perhaps goes far deeper than weird fetish or even normal fan admiration, something almost kind of saccharine and endearing, I will admit. Though, I must also admit that the last entry on that page seems a little bit tacky. In a post that reads, "Life imitates art," quote, "Just when the fans had gotten used to Sally's return and continued presence, there was a bad case of deja vu as another young member of royalty, Diana, Princess of Wales, came to an end that was just as meaningless as Sally's. I resisted the urge to reopen the Cyber Shrine, but when asked to add the following, I couldn't say no," unquote. What follows is the lyrics to Goodbye England's Rose by Elton John, with the lyrics changed to be about Sally Acorn. Yikes. But nonetheless, the page fascinated me, as it had not only stood the test of time for all these years later, but also because the URL indicated that it was being hosted by www.andrews.edu, a college university. It also had the name Drazen attached to it. So, this kind of piqued my interest and I did some digging. As it turns out, this page is actually a part of a far larger set of pages by a man named Daniel J. Drazen, who describes himself as a mild-mannered librarian in his mid-40s. What's more is on a page entitled Once Upon a Tune, he answers why he, of all people, is so dedicated to Sonic the Hedgehog. Quote, "It started back in 1993, when I taped some Saturday morning cartoon shows so I could understand what they were talking about on the Alt-Rec Arts Animation User Net group. One of the shows was based on the video game character Sonic the Hedgehog. Though it only lasted 2 seasons, I found myself to be a fan of the characters and situations. At some point, I let the librarian in me get talked into compiling the Sonic FAQ file, and then I began writing fanfiction, or fanfic for short, stories based on the cartoon characters. That's how hobbies are born. Sometimes though, hobbies can get very serious," unquote. On his collection of pages, you can also read his large collection of Sonic fanfiction, as well as his Archie Sonic comic reviews he calls the Not Whole News, which he actually kept updating until, well, the Archie Sonic universe was cancelled, as well as links to other creators' art, fanfiction, and the Sonic the Hedgehog FAQ file, which Dan made to compile all the facts and lore of the Sonic universe at that time for anyone who wished to read it. Dan is apparently a librarian of sorts at Andrews University, and has been working there all these years. According to his Facebook, and what info can be found about him online via his DeviantArt page, he was born on December 29th of 1951, making him 69 years old as of the upload of this video. I'd wager to guess that Dan is one of the oldest Sonic fans I've ever come across. And I'll confess, when I first came across this weird webpage about Sally Acorn being dead, I was ready to mock it via video format as this funny relic of the past. But as I looked more into Dan Drazen and his dedication to his hobby, I found the story of the Sonic fanbase's oldest fan and contributor to be quite touching. To any of the Sonic fans watching this video, do you think you'll still be playing, watching, and talking about Sonic the fucking Hedgehog when you're 69 years old? It's a funny thing to think about, but something that puts a smile on my face, all the same. Of course, there are plenty of more examples, both good and bad, of people just being very extra with their admiration or at times attraction for Sally Acorn, or Now, let's be honest, almost any Sonic the Hedgehog character. I might have picked on Acorn a lot this video, mainly as a build-up to a much bigger video coming out soon, but to be fair, you can find a lot of this type of content connected to Amy Rose, or especially Rouge the Bat, or Blaze the Cat, or hell, how about just Sonic and Shadow and Knuckles and Tails, and yeah, I don't even think Dr. Robotnik is safe from this degeneracy. But I think I'll stop here for now. What are your feelings about the character of Acorn, or hell, Sonic as a whole? Do you have any personal connection to the old Archie comics or SatAM show? Let me know down below. But while you're here, I'd love to thank all of my loyal patrons, including each and every one of my night owlets, my great night owls, the Good Chi Vibes Zen Garden Party, and the mystical Medusa's Hex, and a very special thank you to our first Arch Owl, the courageous Carcinio Genesis. If you would like to join these all-powerful beings, then be sure to check out my Patreon page down below. I'd also like to thank my friend and fellow YouTuber Froban for making me this badass fan art. Thank you so much, man, it looks amazing. And also be sure to check his channel out down below. And until next time, this has been Dylan the Night Owl, flying off.